So Rich, I think of you. I think of you as the ultimate problem solver, because you're looking for ways in which to solve issues for people in their everyday lives. So let's start with that as our how-to. How to solve a problem. So you have a problem. There's something that needs solving. Where do you start with it?
So I would say probably the first thing is to really understand what the problem is. And so just make sure that we've got it really clearly defined, because if we really understand what the problem is and what's causing it or how it's become a problem, etc., then solving it becomes a little bit easier. If it's a product problem for us, obviously for us, that's what we're looking for. So we love identifying problems. And we think it's a really great problem. We then would get get a group of people in the room who we think are the best problem solvers. And I think from a leadership point of view, it's all about listening, letting everybody talk, go around the room and then try and pull out, the solutions that you think are right, or start to fine tune a solution to the problem. But listening is really important and quite difficult, particularly for someone like me who wants to jump in occasionally and maybe lead the discussion or lead or want to try and land on a solution really quickly. Like I said, we were saying you don't get the light bulb moment very often. And so actually discussion, debate, running scenarios, sketching ideas, model making, testing, and then that iterative process, you end up with a much better solution at the end by doing that than actually just sitting in the room and saying, right, how do we solve this? But I think, really important point is that everyone has to come with the solution. We can't just have the naysayers. We need to surround ourselves with the people who are able to come with a solution and be part of the debate and the discussion and the brainstorm and all the rest of it.
And I don't know if you're the same as me, but I suspect you might be, where I'm super impatient. Like the problem is the problem, but I want it to be solved now, instantaneously. We need to fix this and need to solve it. So does experience teach patience better? Because if you're not a naturally patient person and you're rushing to find the solution, the chances are you're probably going to stuff it up. So actually going through that process is important for everybody. But is that something you can learn? Is that something that, just experience of these various issues gives you?
I think there's always, there's always the temptation to, and particularly if you have a solution, you sort of to say that this is it. There's always that temptation. I think within our world, and we're looking at products, we follow a process that helps make sure we don't come up with, to make sure we do go through various steps to say, okay, that's maybe step one, but then we're going to go through a 4-step process to see if we can refine and improve and better that idea or that solution. So the process also helps because you're always tempted to try and see the solution right at the start, and then you're fixated on it, and actually you become blinkered. You don't end up with the best solution. You don't end up with the best idea or the best product at the end, and you've missed that opportunity. So the process, getting the right heads in the room really helps. What I love about creative people is sometimes creative people hate process generally because they're free thinkers. They like to think outside the box. They're brilliant at thinking outside the box, which is great. And so it's that combination of free thinking, but keeping it kind of not constrained or pointing it in the right direction to get the best outcome. And that in itself is an art form. But process can help that a little bit.
Yes, I completely, you're totally talking to someone who really wants to be better at this, because I come from that school of thought of absolutely like big sky thinking, like what are the ideas, what can we do with them, and let's not be constrained by anything, including the price tag, and then let's work our way back from that. And I guess there has to be an element of that, because you have to look for those disruptive ideas and those disruptive moments that might take you on that journey. But then when do you start introducing the real life to the scenario? So when do you start saying in that process that you have, okay, let's now apply this to, because if you can't afford to make it, or no one will buy it because it's too prohibitive, then you don't have anything anyway. So when do you actually start being realistic about those wonder moments?
Yeah, that comes quite late on in the process. Actually, it probably should come a little bit earlier, but we don't want it to in sort of it to block the creativity at the start, or the blue sky thinking, or the out of the box thinking. So we think if you can identify this problem, as we said, and you've got the problem, you can then come up with a solution. That can you know that gives you a lot more scope to uh, refine the idea a lot later on. So in other words, it's sort of, if you've got a great solution, um, I think you have more opportunity to look at different ways of making it, or the way it's costed, or price points, etc., etc. If you've got a very narrow idea at the start, you're restricted the whole way down the process.
What's the problem you're still desperate to solve?
Where, where to start? I mean, we see problems in everything. That's one of our. I mean, I mean, we still have problems with chopping boards. I mean, like we see problems in all areas of the home. Uh, and it's really interesting that obviously life changes, and cultures are changing, and when we look for technology, and technology's involvement in the home is growing, and in the next 10 years or the next 5 years, AI will have its, much greater role, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be a fresh set of problems. It doesn't stand still. So yeah, so I mean, it's a constantly evolving, picture. You could say we're probably frustrated with it, but we love it. But we love that part of it.
What's the next? What would you say is the next problem you're most likely to solve?
Well, I know what we're developing for the next 2 to 3 years, and we've got a great new range launching next year. I'm not plugging it, but and it does solve a very clear and important problem in the home, particularly in the kitchen, that everyone has, and no one's really properly solved it. So we're quite excited about it. We think it's quite disruptive and clever. We think so. We're quite excited about that. So, but I would say that that's the next big problem that we're looking forward to seeing whether people are like, yeah, why didn't someone think of that before? That is a problem, and you guys have come up with a good solution. So we'll see. I'll let you know it launches in March next year. So April 24, I'll tell you whether we maybe got it right or wrong.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Rich. It's been fab to talk to you.
Thanks, Georgie.